coming into this 2023-2024 NBA season, the Orlando Magic were seen as an up-and-coming team, a team that could be an annoyance to the Eastern Conference playoff contenders, maybe make the play-in, that kind of thing, be in the mix. They're much more in the mix after a 9-game winning streak, though they've lost the last two. Currently sit third in the Eastern Conference. Phillip Rossman-Reich from Locked On Magic joins me now. And Phillip, we don't have to talk about the 121 and 111 loss to the Cavs on Wednesday night. We're here to talk about the feel-good story of this NBA season. I know it's a small sample size, but what is clicking for this year for the Magic that wasn't quite at this level last year?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's just a surety of who they are. I think last year they were still figuring things out. And look, they're still young. They're still figuring things out very, very clearly. But last year they got off to a 5-20 start. They were dealing with a lot of injuries and they were kind of put way behind the 8 ball. And then they started kind of working into anonymity. And over the last 57 games of the season, from December 7th to the end of the season. So we're at the year anniversary of this, of the season beginning last year. The Magic went 29-28. They finished 6th in the league in defensive rating. So they were one of the best defensive teams in the league last year. And essentially when they were all healthy, because December 7th is when Cole Anthony and Markelle Fultz came back from injury. When they were healthy, they were a 500 team. And so they took what they did at the end of last season and they've really just carried it over and played with that much more confidence of like, hey, we can play at this level. We can be this team. We are so much better than everyone thinks. And they've gone out and proved it, obviously, on the court. And they're kind of taking the league a little bit by storm here over the last few weeks.
Yeah, and what I think is fascinating, I'm so glad you brought up the defense because, you think of Paolo Banchero, former number 1 overall pick. You've got the Wagner brothers, Markelle Fultz, who has carved out a really great niche for himself in Orlando, but you're mostly thinking about the offense and the scoring and how much, Paolo and Wagner fit together and all those cool things. And yet this is a team that currently sits 4th in defensive rating. How have they done this? Because you look at the team and you don't look at it and go, oh yeah, that's a team that looks like it could just lock people down. And yet here they are doing it.
And they're doing it, of course, without one of their better defenders in Wendell Carter, who's played only 5 games before he broke a bone in his hand. Markelle Fultz, to your point, has carved out a really nice niche, but he's been out for most of the season. He's played only 5 games this season, too. So, the Magic are not free from the injury bug at all. But, they're really doing it with – there's a lot of, defense is a lot about trust and understanding of each other. They really understand what they're trying to do. The main goal of the Magic's defense is to take away the paint. That's what they were really good at last year, is preventing not even just points in the paint, but field goal attempts in the paint. And then they trust that their length is going to disrupt any passes that you try to make and allow them to close out on you at the 3-point line so they can prevent some of those 3-point shots.
They can be a huge team when they want to be.
Yeah. And then, you got a guy like Jalen Suggs, who's probably going to be, again, provided that he stays healthy, which after Wednesday night, we'll see how long he's out with the calves, with the ankle strain. But he's on track to be an all defensive team player. He can lock you up. He's darting into passing lanes for steals. It's a team that forces and creates a lot of turnovers. And while that doesn't necessarily create maybe fast breaks all the time, this is a team that is just very disruptive. They have guys who can comfortably switch 1 through 4, if not 1 through 5 in a lot of places. And they just keep coming at you. They play so hard. And that's a cliche among young teams and kind of unproven teams. It's like, oh, they play hard, but this team plays at sort of like a frenetic, when they're at their best, at a frenetic defensive pace. And that's really helped them kind of carve and establish their identity.
Okay, so that leads us to the obvious question, though. Right now they look like, if they can stay healthy, you mentioned the health part of it, a playoff team, and not just a play-in team, a playoff team. How dangerous can they be if this all continues to look like this?
I mean, obviously, defense gets you a long, long way.
Sure.
And Steve Clifford, who was the coach here in Orlando for a long time, used to always tell us, like, to make the playoffs, you got to be top 10 in one category and top half of the league in the other. And so Orlando, I don't know where they are after Wednesday's game, but they entered Wednesday's game, I think, 4th in the league in defensive rating and 15th in the league in offensive rating. So the Magic are right there. They're clearly a team that can be very, very dangerous, that can be tough to score against, and and surprisingly perhaps score a little bit on you.
Stay up to date on what's next for the Orlando Magic by subscribing to Locked On Sports today and Locked On Magic on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube.